Hi, I'm Mal, and this is Miniature Warriors. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today's game sees us playing a Chickamauga scenario. It is a what if. It's a original scenario designed by John Hill of the Johnny Reb rules fame, and it's on the left flank at the Battle of Chickamauga. I have 2 players aside, 4 players, for what should prove to be an interesting game. You should note that the table has been deemed to be covered in light foliage, so most of the engagement ranges have shrunk. But anyway, I hope you enjoy.
It is September 18, 1863, and the rebel Army of Tennessee, under General Bragg, is engaging the Federal Army of the Cumberland south of Chattanooga, Georgia. Heath's division has been posted on the Confederate left and ordered forward. Just over the Chickamauga Creek lies Perot's division of blue-coated Yankees. As we come onto the field, the Chickamauga stream lies behind us and Brigadier Brinkwater's Confederates are on our right. The field is covered in light scrub, hindering visibility but not movement. Brigadier Perot's Yankee division lies on top of a slight rise that the road from Glass Mill climbs. The Federals have deployed a cavalry regiment forward and astride the road. To the cavalry's rear, further up the rise, several batteries have been deployed in the road from Crawfish Springs, a small hamlet on which the Union left is anchored. The Confederates wasted little time advancing with both brigades forward. Brigadier Heath's brigade on the rebel right and Brinkwater's command on the left. With restricted visibility, Brigadier Perot held his blue-coated Federals in position. His right-hand brigade, that of Colonel Fogg, whose attached cavalry, the 1st Illinois, impetuously charged a rebel battery that was attempting to deploy in the field to their front. The startled gunners fought desperately, ramrods and gun spikes being improvised as makeshift weapons, and after several precarious minutes the battery managed to retire with the loss of a section of guns. Brinkwater's infantry, deployed either side of the retiring battery, fired massed musketry into the cavalry, and the quick wheeling of Cobb's Georgia Legion threatened the Yankee cavalry's flank, and saw the impertinent troopers recoil back towards the main Union line. Further north of this initial skirmish, the rebel division was pushing forward through the scrub, their advance hindered by the several small streams, tributaries of the Chickamauga, that crisscrossed the lower reaches of the slope. Brinkwater's cavalry that had forced the Yankee horsemen to retire, now found themselves charged by the very same blue-coated troopers, who hurtled themselves downhill and into the rebels. In a quick and decisive, hand-to-hand combat, the Yankee regiment got the worst, being forced to disengage and once again retire up the slope. Heath's Confederates continued their advance, only pausing when musket volleys crashed out amongst the trees, signaling that the Yankee regiments had engaged the front units. Back on the Glass Mill Road, the rebel cavalry was probing the Federal center. Finding it well defended, the cavalry withdrew. The engagement now became general along the front of the 2 divisions. Brigadier Perot, pushing his left-hand units forward, pressed the lead Confederate infantry units back onto their batteries which were yet to come into action. The low rumble of musket volleys grew louder as the 2 opposing lines closed. The rebel center was held by Brinkwater's cavalry, who refused to dismount. These proud Southern Cavaliers would pay a high price later in the battle for remaining mounted. In front of Crawfish Springs, at the northern end of the field, the Southern assault was regaining some of its initial momentum. Brigadier Perot, the Federal commander, held his 3rd New Jersey Cavalry in reserve behind his left flank, ready to counterattack any Southern breakthrough. A Union attack in the center pushed downhill, just to the north of Brinkwater's cavalry, threatening to tear through the rebel line. Cobb's Georgia cavalry were forced to face to their flank, as the Federal batteries threw canister into the rebel horsemen. The confusion amongst the Southern cavalry was tremendous as the carnage on the Glass Mill Road increased. But the rebel horsemen held firm. As a rebel yell went up on the right, Heath's assault went in, crashing into the Federal line and using both their musket butts and bayonets. The Southern infantry drove into the Yankees, forcing the Union regiments on the Glass Mill Road to retire. Throat-choking smoke enveloped the contested ground, but when it cleared it was the Virginians who had stuck in the fight. With the momentum of the Confederate assault on the left stalled, Brigadier Heath on the right rallied his worn infantry, and, with a personal appeal to the troops, he placed himself at their head of the lead regiment and led them into another charge, culminating in a furious contest at the top of the slope. The desperate struggle saw Brigadier Perrott feed his reserve infantry into the fight. At first, the rebels who had been making ground, pressing forward towards Crawfish Springs now found themselves outnumbered. A thick wall of Federal bluecoats to their front and starting to lick around their flanks. Slowly but surely, inch by inch, hard-won ground was conceded. A half hour after the assault had begun, they found themselves back at their start point. As the last Southern infantry regiments fell back, a lull fell over the field. A courier from General Bragg arrived at Brigadier Heath's headquarters, ordering the Confederate division to fall back across the Chickamauga and redeploy to the north. But just as this courier was delivering his message, just to Heath's south, Brinkwater, sword brandished above his head, put spur to horse and led his cavalry in a doomed charge against the protected blue-coated infantry. Up the slope the rebel troopers went and after a short and sharp engagement were driven back down. Brinkwater's valiant but desperate charge left the hillside littered with Confederate troopers. Heath now ordered his division to break off and retire. They had lost the encounter. Brigadier Perrott's successful defense had cost the Federal commander many of his veterans. His division was reinforced by 2 regiments from Indiana. He was not promoted. Colonel Fogg's command on the Glass Mill Road had performed well with his recruits from Tennessee standing the test of battle well. His brigade was reinforced by 2 regiments. Colonel Fogg was not promoted. Brigadier Heath's veterans took heavy casualties, in particular the North Carolinian regiments. The Confederate War Department has sent reinforcements including a reconstituted 40th Virginia. Brinkwater's command suffered many casualties amongst his gallant Southern troopers.
A Union victory in a fairly tight game that in the woods around Chickamauga was a difficult contest for the Confederates to win. But anyway, our campaign pushes on into 1864. Each player has no more than 3 games left, 2 in 1864 and 1 in 1865. And the Confederates will probably have the advantage of being on the defensive in some of these games coming up. Anyway, I look forward to you joining me again. Please subscribe. Stay well.
A band of brothers and native to the soil, fighting for our liberty with treasure, blood, and toil. And when our rights are threatened, the cry rolls near and far. Hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah. Hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah. Hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. As long as the Union was faithful to her trust, like friends and like brethren, kind were we and just. But now when Northern treachery attempts our rights to mar, we hoist on high the